Hi, I'm Fantine, and as you all know, I'm from France. As much as I love my country, there are things over there that just makes me mad. People abuse the system, the social system quite a bit, and it makes it hard for taxpayers. Imagine you're living in an apartment complex and you're going to work every day, and you see that neighbor of yours just getting all this nice stuff, and he doesn't go to work. How does he do it? Well, he's got 7 wives in this apartment complex. They all claim single mothers in a different apartment, and all he has to do is just receive the benefits and just give them the barely minimum. So I just wish that my country would wake up and see that the social system is not working anymore and it just needs to change. We do fraud a lot in the US too. People do take advantage, but are we looking at the same level? So I'm going to compare the difference between the fraud in the US and the fraud in France and see what makes it that way. There is a website called the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud. If you go under the fraud statistics, you will find numerous sources about the fraud happening in the US. The National Healthcare Anti-Fraud in 2009 stated that $60 billion are used illegally in the healthcare system. The Ponemon Institute in 2010 found that more than 1.4 million people are victims of medical identity theft, and only 10% get their cases resolved. I also found out through the CATO Institute Downsizing the federal government website that Chris Edwards and Tad D. Haven made research back in August 2009 about fraud and abuse in federal programs. They discovered that the housing and urban development budget that goes for low-income tenants fraud about $1 billion in overpayment. Tenants make false claims to abuse federal monies. They looked at also the food stamp programs where the fraud cost $1.7 million a year. And then school lunches, families make more than what they pretend, and that cost us $1.4 billion a year in fraud. Then you have also the Social Security income that comes to a fraud of $4.6 billion. So the fraud in the US is mainly in the healthcare, but since I'm looking at more people, they do fraud a lot too in false claims. Now let's look at France and their numbers. L'Express L'Expansion is a website, and they published in August 2010 an article called Les chiffres de la fraude sociale. They're stating that in 2009, the Social Security income came to a fraud of 50 to 80 million euros, which is about 52 to 84 million dollars. The dollar and the euro are not very far, so it's easier to compare. In another article of the same website called Les vrais enjeux de la fraude sociale en France, published in November 2011, the social benefits fraud came to about 2 and 3 billions of euros. And then the number one problem in France for fraud is also not working under the table. It's the black market, and because of that, Social Security cannot claim the tax to pay those benefits, and it comes to 8 to 15.8 billion euros. So you're going to tell me the numbers in the US are way higher than the numbers in France. So the fraud here is bigger and more important. Well, if you look at the number of people, here we have about 318 million people living in the US, and in France about 66 million people, according to Google. And so the numbers might be higher here, but there's way more important people. So since the numbers are kind of looking at about the same, there should be way less in France than there should be here. The amounts of euros is way more important. So I really wish that my country would realize that the social security system is not working anymore, and that people just will keep taking advantage of it because they think it's the only way to survive. I think it is harder to control it too because the fraud is everywhere. In my first article from the French website, there are frauds everywhere. In the work vehicles, people claiming sick days when they're not sick, because the government takes care of sick days as well. So I'm asking the question, do you think the government should be involved that much in people's lives? And is it right what we do in the US, where the government is not so much involved and companies can actually manage their own numbers? Is it more difficult to catch fraud when the government has so much to control, instead of here in the US, where the control is also done by private companies and private insurances?